much. Peter Aldous.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Lady from Bradford South. My right honourable friend, the Chancellor, was bequeathed a very difficult immediate inheritance last October, and in his autumn statement delivered on 17th November, he took the first steps to putting the nation's finances back on a secure footing, laying the foundations for sustainable long-term economic growth. He is to be commended for what he has done in the past 4 months, with policies that will significantly reduce inflation and will cut government spending on debt interest. His initiatives announced today with regard to childcare, the abolition of lifetime allowances, universal credit reform and supporting the disabled into work are to be welcomed, as are his announcements with regard to investment allowances and tax breaks. However, in the aftermath of COVID, there are ingredients to economic growth that are missing, and it is important that this budget is not the end game and is instead the first instalment of a plan for growth, with parts 2 and 3 being delivered in the autumn and this time next year. Mr Deputy Speaker, I shall highlight 3 themes which I believe that it is important to keep firmly in mind as we hopefully move on from the seismic shock that COVID has delivered and the devastating and heartbreaking ongoing impact of Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. Firstly, it is important to continue to support, albeit hopefully on a reducing scale, those people and businesses who have been most impacted by this cruel double whammy. My right honourable friend is right to extend the energy price guarantee scheme for 3 months and to introduce the energy bill discount scheme for businesses. He is also right to support local councils with their leisure centre costs, and also very welcome the support for the charitable and the third sector. He does, however, need to keep the situation under review, and I would suggest he needs to pay particular regard to the following. Firstly, the disabled, and I have thinking in particular of those of neurological conditions such as Parkinson's, MS and MND, who have been seriously impacted by the dramatic increases in energy costs, and we must not forget the ongoing challenges that they face. In the longer term, it may well be appropriate to introduce a social tariff to support such vulnerable groups, and I would urge the government to look very closely at how this might work. I'm also conscious of the needs of businesses who face particular challenges, and I have in mind such sectors as metal finishing, who use large amounts of electricity, who are losing work overseas, and who are not as yet included in the government's support for energy-intensive industries. Now, I would urge the Chancellor to keep this under review. Secondly, Mr Deputy Speaker, it's important to put in place measures that enable businesses to thrive. The tax breaks and the offsetting arrangements that my right honourable friend has announced today are welcome, but they are only a start. In the autumn statement, my right honourable friend announced major reforms to business rates, but this work needs to be continued. In the short term, the non-domestic rating bill must be introduced as quickly as possible, and in the longer term, work should continue so that business rates return to being a much smaller component part of a business's operating costs. Secondly, the energy sector is a vitally important component part of the UK economy. From a local perspective, in East Anglia, there are significant opportunities for generating prosperity and jobs, ensuring our energy security and driving forward on the road to net zero. There is enormous potential in offshore wind, nuclear at Sizewell, and in the oil and gas sector through the North Sea Transition Deal, which also paves the way for hydrogen and carbon capture and storage, on which we did get some good news earlier. Mr Deputy Speaker, if we are to realise this the potential of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it is vital that we reform our fiscal and regulatory regime so that investment does not go overseas, whether to the US, to Europe or beyond. The Chancellor has made a start in meeting this particular challenge, and I look forward to the government's clean energy reset, which must enable the UK to retain our position as a global leader in the energy sector. Mr Deputy Speaker, to achieve long-term economic growth, to enable people to realise their full potential, we need a skills revolution. Here, there remains a great deal of work to do. It is right that my honourable friend is looking closely at this and has asked Sir Michael Barber to carry out a full review. However, in the short term, further education colleges, such as East Coast College in Lowestoft, are doing great work, but with one arm behind their backs. In the immediate future, there is an urgent need for more revenue funding to get them what for is an incredibly challenging period. In the longer term, I highlight the need for reforming the apprenticeship levy. Thirdly, and finally, Mr Deputy Speaker, I come to levelling up. I come to levelling up. Along with the Honourable Member for Cambridge, I co-chair the all-party group for the East of England. In December, along with the Local Government Association, we published a report on levelling up in the East of England, which concludes that on 5 of the levelling up missions, there was very low confidence of them being achieved. One of these missions is infrastructure, and it is in this context the lack of government support for the Ely and Hawley junction rail improvements, from which the whole of the UK would benefit, is very disappointing, and I urge the government to continue to work with those in the region promoting this project. On a positive note, I welcome the announcement of funding for the Lowestoft Seafront Jubilee Parade project, which is an important component part of the regeneration work that is taking place in Lowestoft and will help revitalise the town, making it a compelling place in which to live, to work and to visit. However, Mr Deputy Speaker, I cannot hide my disappointment that none of the 12 proposed investment zones are in the East of England. In Lowestoft, we have a successful enterprise zone which is in need of refreshing. We had a false start last September when Suffolk County Council and East Suffolk Council put forward exciting proposals for investment zones. It now appears that that nowhere in the east of England will have an opportunity to even be on the starting grid. In this context, the mantra of enterprise, employment and everywhere does ring slightly hollow. In conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, this budget is not the end game. There is a lot of unfinished business. Last November, my right honourable friend delivered his prologue. Today, he has provided Act 1 of his strategy for growth. Acts 2 and 3 come in the autumn and next spring. I've highlighted the work that I believe remains to be done, and in the coming months, I look forward to working with him and his colleagues in the Treasury to meet and address these challenges.
Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the honourable gentleman for